Relationships. They're frustrating, exhausting, right? The start of them feels so special. The end of them feels, well, so typical. And then what? I'm just supposed to pick someone else from the crowd to break up with later? What am I doing wrong? First, let me tell you a quick story. Back in the day, I dated a fair bit, dodged a few crazy chicks here and there. Yet, all throughout my naive young dating life, I remained optimistic that I would eventually find the one for me, as people put it. I figured it was just a waiting game according to what everyone else was saying. It felt like I had to patiently fish and wait where everyone else was fishing and waiting. So I did. I kept fishing like everyone else did until I got lucky too. Again and again I'd be fishing and trying to get lucky in love. Trying to find someone to be with, and not just to get laid. I crossed my fingers. That one girl out there would stand out from all the lemmings and all the carbon copies out there, and surprise me and possess more than the usual complaining and orifices that I was used to. But I'm disappointed to say, and equally ashamed to admit, I made the best with who I had at the time and tolerated her complaining for her orifices, until even the orifices couldn't keep me there anymore. Relationships were starting to make me jaded. My irritation in the dating dance reached its peak when I decided to make a YouTube channel. You see, I needed to get things off my chest, sure, but more importantly, I needed to figure this circus out through this dialogue we're having here, so that I could try and apply them in my approach out there. Because I had no idea how to make them work, like out here in the real world, other than the common sense approach of just being polite and seeing what happens. But there had to be a few more steps or insights. I also began to realize that other relationship experts had no clue either. As I listened to them talk about relationships like Oprah talks about The Secret, you can only listen to friends and family so long telling you to
just believe and it'll happen, you'll see.
And then just shrugging their shoulders and everyone just sleepwalking through their lives again. And let me be frank here, once I'd gotten the mystery of hanky-panky out of my system in the early years, it no longer had the same alluring attraction as it once did. And so a peculiar thing started to happen. As the repetitive nature of dating revealed itself to me, I could not pretend to get as excited about going on the next date. Going out to meet a new girl didn't feel hopeful anymore. It felt kind of like deja vu. Here comes another girlfriend. Maybe. To put it bluntly and quite accurately, the single scene was, to me, becoming a comfortable supply of future girlfriends. And that was it. That's all it seemed to be. So what changed? Well, I got older, for one. But I hit a point where I didn't want to go on the same dates the same ways anymore and seeing the same things and hearing the same conversations. And most importantly, I didn't enjoy it like I used to. I got to the point where I didn't care how hot her profile looked anymore.
Hi.
Or even if I could get laid. My black and white world needed colour in it again. Women were becoming dull. Food tasted bland, and hobbies were barely stimulating. And no, I wasn't depressed. I had to change something. And the only way to do that was to be honest with what I knew I had to do, but was comfortably avoiding. You know, I had moved out of home many years ago, but in many ways, I was still living there in spirit. Have a think about what I just said. It took a long time for me to turn up as myself with how I spoke about what was important to me, in front of women, on my dating profile, instead of just trying to impress female strangers, just so I could get the job of a boyfriend. And just in general, relaxing my formality around everybody. I mean, what was wrong with me? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with you either. To make the choice to show up on the next date looking forward to meeting a person with 2 arms and 2 legs like you, to make the choice to go on a date with a human being up here for once instead of a romantic delusion. Insisting on it up here. Before the date, during the date, and especially after the date, through my conversations and my interactions and my choices and my yeses and my nos. And you might say, what if she turns up on the date as nothing more than her pretty avatar, as most people tend to do these days? Then it would be my responsibility not to date the hollow avatar, because then I had no right to blame the avatar later for not being something more than what she showed herself to be in the first place. You know, there's the cliche that women expect their men to change. I think to a degree we all do, to the extent that we keep ourselves hidden, so we're not alone or abandoned. Sigmund Freud is in there somewhere, I'm sure. Honest, revelatory conversations on dates started to reveal this to me more and more, so that if I continue to go back on old patterns and insist on avoidant safe chit-chat during my dates and refuse to talk about what's under the skin, then I would most likely, and statistically, for you big brains out there, I would get the same types of unfulfilling relationships. I would get the same results by dint of my conduct. They would end up all, in effect, being all women out there. Of course they would. Is there really an upside to dating hot and crazy? I wonder. Should I have kept dating the same way so I guaranteed a steady stream of predictable train wreck stories I could use for content on my YouTube channel? Or should I try and change to make my life better? Hard choice. The way I saw it, there was no downside to showing up honestly and saying what I feel and believe. Can anyone seriously object to that? And so if she doesn't like the real me, then fine, we're free to move on and find compatible people. Or scenario 2, if she does like me, then we can both look forward to a second date. I started to selfishly crave the sincerity of a compatible individual. I wanted the person behind the surface, the person behind the body, if there was one. This was my unicorn, a woman who'd show up to a date free of pretense, with the courage to be honest for once, as she wishes men would be with her. And yes, I know it's rare, but what's the alternative? You're better off being alone. Confession? As I got older, I never really enjoyed the dating process as much as other guys seem to. All that newness that people seem to crave from a new lover. And while I admit that each woman is superficially different to the last one, her new car smell, to me, just wasn't there anymore. I was watching reruns. And besides, you go out on dates, again and again, that all seemed to want the same things, say the same things, and be guarded in the same ways too. Their fears were all the same, their ideas of safety were all the same, and I just didn't have the same story. They all seemed to want stimulation and escapism as ways to feel alive. That was their definition of relationships, whereas I wanted to sit still and relate to somebody. I must have seemed odd and boring to them because they certainly seemed odd and boring to me. I remember I came to this point once where another let's see where things go relationships ended, and I realized that I was taking vacations with women, and I just wanted to go home. Besides, I've never had the pressing need for excessive variety like most extroverts out there. I crave familiarity more than anything, stability, routine, order. So wasting my time on new female vacations would never get me any stability. And don't get me wrong, holidays are invigorating and fun. And while initially enjoyable, I started to find the single scene felt like kind of a holding pattern to my life. I wanted the holiday to be over as quickly as possible so that I could feel comfortable with a person who shared my view as well. The nomadic existence of hookups and dating was not where I wanted to plant my roots. I'm a homebody. My creative lifestyle is pretty introverted. I was homesick, and so I wanted to return to my life constantly, hopefully with someone who also shared the same lifestyle. But it seemed I was continually booking my ticket to dating land over and over, staying at a resort or a dump, and then returning home again telling stories about my adventures on YouTube or to friends and complaining about women and dating and things, while I'd just rinse and repeat and go on another holiday, and then coming back and needing a holiday from my holiday. It's insane.
Tell the story again.
What's frustrating though is that everyone out there, they keep telling you to keep going in the same direction. Keep walking the desert, because the faithful find an oasis sometimes. She's out there, they say. Keep walking. Don't give up, they encouraged. It'll happen when you least expect it. And according to them, Finding someone compatible was like waiting around for magic to happen. In essence, the advice is,
Keep buying that lottery ticket every week because it'll be that one week that you don't buy the ticket that your lucky numbers will come up. And then you'll regret it.
and so FOMO seemed like a big reason to keep rolling that dice on female strangers. Because, I could miss out. Miss out on what, I thought. But I must admit, I f***ed up a lot in my past relationships because I had no idea what I was doing or what I really wanted aside from pretty and... Which is fine, we're all young and naive at some point, weren't we? But the one thing I realised is that I faked it in most of my past relationships. Out of politeness, out of fear, out of anything and everything other than being honest and doing the right thing. Yeah, okay, I'll cut myself some slack there because I was young. After all, how else was I to gain experience in knowing the clarity of how I know and feel now? If I've learnt anything from all of my near misses, both good and bad, is that faking it very seldom leads to making it. You're relying on luck, and that's about it. The longer you comfortably fake your relationships with people under the comfortable excuse of politeness, the more regret you'll have later, and you just don't have the time. We're very clever as human beings. We can come up with all manner of justifications to keep doing the lazy thing we've always been doing. But it just comes down to doing and acting the way you know you should. So, what did I learn? Be polite, but have a sense of fairness about yourself that you won't lie or hide who you are. You won't fake it just to get a pat on the back. Don't fake or lie about who you are. To yourself most notably, but also as a consequence to other people. It doesn't work whichever way you look at it. Okay, this video was a lot of work but fun. Thanks for watching till the end and later. That was insane.